Hi there. In this video, I am going to give you a few tips for knitting my tulips design. Though tulips is a crescent shape shawl, it actually starts from the sides with two identical wings, the ones here that you're seeing in lime green. And then those wings are joined together in the center with by the I cords. And then the center is worked after stitches are picked up along the sides, and that center is worked in short rows. Then the border is worked at the end, and the border starts with a few setup rows. Then we have a stacked increase, and a brioche tulip design is worked at the end. When you start your project, you're going to be knitting the two wings that form the base of the shawl. And I would like to begin with some basic skills to show you how to work these pieces and have this nice edge where you can pick up stitches. One of the basic principles here is that all stitches have to be worked on every row, and whether it's the last or the first stitch, they all have to be worked. And here I'm going to work a row without adding any stitches. I turn to the wrong side of the work and I purl that first stitch because I am working all knit garter. That first stitch has to be purled. And if you find that your edge is being very loose and there's lots of slack in the stitches, put your finger on top of that stitch on your needle and pull on it, and you'll notice this stitch right below, the parent stitch of this stitch, is getting tighter. Then take your working yarn and pull on it to tighten the stitch. Then take your yarn to the back and then continue knitting. I'm going to show this one more time, and I'm going to add a stitch at the end of the row. And this time I will work continental style. I'm going to add a stitch by making a yarn over right before the last stitch. Here's one stitch left. I make a yarn over and I knit that last stitch. Turn my work to the wrong side. I purl that first stitch, and again, if the fabric or if your stitch is loose or wiggly, just put your finger on top, pull on it to tighten the parent stitch, pull on the yarn to tighten the stitch on the needle, take the yarn to the back, and now since we have an increase and we have a yarn over, we need to knit that stitch through the back loop. I insert my needle in the front and then just rotate it to the back and then knit it and close that yarn over. Then continue knitting to the end, or per my pattern. Here we go. It's as simple as that. I'm going to start the tips by talking about how the sides are joined. I did mention that we will be picking up stitches, but then we're gonna get to a point where we have two I cords that we need to deal with. So what's going to happen is, as we're picking up stitches from the right side, we are going to cast on a stitch, and then we're going to work the stitches from the I cord that's on the left side, and then we cast on a few additional stitches, then we work the I cords from the right side, and we continue picking up stitches then on the left side. What happens are these sides are joined, and we have this shape that kind of overlapping I cords that provides a bit of interest. The next step is to remind you that in your pattern you have a different video that show you how to pick up stitches along the edge. It's a dedicated video for picking up stitches, and it has some tips and tricks for you to help you through that process. Once you complete the wings and the center of the piece and you work the initial setup rows for the border, you are going to be making a stacked increase. And then what follows the stacked increase is the brioche pattern to work the rest of the border and the tulip design. As you're working the brioche section, your row is going to begin on the edge, and you're going along, and along this stacked increase, it's going to go this way, and along all of these stacked increases. In the next demo, I'm going to show you how to work that first row along the stacked increase. I have a small swatch in here. I actually have two pattern repeats, and I have two stacked increases. So if I pop them out rather, you'll see that this is one, and this is another stacked increase. So you'll notice as I am trying to push all of these stitches onto my needle to begin knitting, it's going to be hard to do that. You can do it, obviously. I'm doing it here, but it's going to be a bit hard. So if it is very hard for you, and most likely it will, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to make a loop in your cable at the top of the increase. It doesn't matter whether you do it on this side or on this side, as long as you just pull a loop and then scoot all your stitches like this, and then begin working your pattern. I'm actually here working through my row number 1, where I am basically, I knit and slipped 1 with a yarn over, knit 2 together, slipped 1 with a yarn over, and continuing per my instructions. And you'll notice here I am to the point where I have run out of stitches on this flat part, and I need to work off of the stacked increase. So just go ahead and continue with exactly like your pattern asks. The pattern asks, slip that stitch, knit that next one, slip with a yarn over rather, knit the next one, and so on and so forth. And you're going to get to the point where you're finished working these stitches. Then what you do is you rearrange your loop to the next stacked increase. So you pull up that next stacked increase, just like this, pull a loop, pull these stitches to that loop. So in essence, what you're doing is every time you get to the top of the stacked increase, you stop to pull up another loop from the next stacked increase. But then you'll notice here I really cannot work. So what I have to do is I have to pull all of these stitches onto the cable part like this and have enough slack in my needle so I can continue working these stitches. So I finished the first row of the brioche border. And you may ask, well, am I going to have to manage the cable? In other words, do I have to keep pulling loops at the top of these stacked increases for the entire border? And the answer is no. You have to do it for 2, 3, and potentially 4 rows, but beyond that, the fabric will straighten out. So as you'll notice in here, so we have this really sharp in the sharp increase in here, but as you'll notice, the fabric in here will even out, so we don't have as sharp of an angle. And basically then you will be able to work the entire row without having to manage any of the or rather without having to pull loops, and things will become a lot easier. So we get to the stitch that we need to slip with a yarn over. We slip it, we make the yarn over, then we bring the yarn all the way back to the front, and then we slip the I-cord stitches. I am going to repeat this one more time, and this time I will do it continental style. So here I have 2 stitches left. One I'm going to brioche knit and one I'm going to slip with a yarn over. Then I need to slip the 4 stitches. So slip 1 yarn over, brioche knit, slip 1 yarn over, bring the yarn all the way to the front, and then slip 4 stitches. Continuing with the brioche tips, I want to show you how to insert this bead at the base of the syncopated brioche tulip. I have my sample. Let me clear this so you can see it a bit easier. So with my sample in here, I am going to add my bead right here, and I'm going to work the increase at the base of that tulip. The stitch before that is a slip 1 yarn over, and again, because this is syncopated, I'm going to work with my B color yarn or my alternate color yarn, that tulip. And I have here my bead, which is a size, it's a seed bead size 2. And it's important that you actually use the larger size beads here. And to insert this bead, you'll notice here I have a brioche stitch, which means I have a yarn over and then a brioche stitch. I am going to insert the bead by pulling both the yarn over and the stitch through the hole of the bead. And then I'm going to put that brioche stitch, again notice it's got the yarn over and the stitch, and I'm going to work the increase through both. So here I am actually slipping one with a yarn over, and I'm going to make my increase, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and knit 1. Here I made the previous one, I made my center tulip, and then I continue working per my pattern. The next step I would like to show is when you are working with 3 colors, I want to show how to trap the non-active yarn within the I-cord. You'll notice here on my needle I have this color yarn, that pink, and I need to work next this color yarn, which is my tulip color, but I'm alternating with the green. This pink and the green are alternating. And if I turn around my work, notice that that green yarn is below the next active yarn. So what I want to do is I want to trap this within the I-cord. And it's a very easy way to do this. All I have to do is bring this yarn over and to the right and over the working yarn, and just push it back, and you'll notice how it's trapped right underneath, and took it to the side. Then I'm ready to start knitting with my tulip color. I'll work the first few stitches. And I will show you. So if I turn my work around, you'll notice that this yarn, this is the float from the tulip color, and my yarn is trapped under it. And you'll notice this V here is the shape of the stitch that needs to look how it should look like on the back.